All right, I think we're live. So welcome everyone to another Matt Maran Motoring live stream here on the Matt Maran Motoring YouTube channel. Hope you all had a great weekend here and an enjoyable Thanksgiving and all that. And thanks so much for tuning in and hanging out here on a Sunday night. So like all the other usual live streams are going to go for about 2 hours or so. We'll give priority answering to anyone who does a super chat or a super thanks, as well as anyone who's a member there with the green badges there. They always get that priority answering. If you'd also like that priority answering, there's always a link in the description and elsewhere on the page as well. But so anyway, I see we got a bunch of people who have joined in, and Brian already is gifting 5 memberships. Thank you so much for the generosity, Brian. I really appreciate it. Happy to see a bunch of people there able to get those memberships there. And yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed for Danny tonight as well. Thanks so much, Brian, for kicking us off with the generous gift there. And let me go ahead and mute my computer here. All right, so I see we have Jordan Goodstick, Brian, Danny, and Kyle, Cars, Anthony, Raphael, Vishal, Wheatman, so many here. So thanks so much, everyone. I see we also have MBKN gifting 5 memberships already. Thank you so much as well. Really appreciate it. And looks like still no luck for Danny there. But yeah, we will try and get to Danny's questions here and the comments as well tonight, since he's an honorary member. The amount of gifted memberships. This is almost like a fun, also like disappointing experiment though, of like how many gifted memberships do we have to do before Danny finally gets selected here. But anyway, he says it's fun being an honorary member. Sounds good, Danny. Well, happy to have you in here. Hope you're doing well. And getting right into the first member questions here. Jordan says for him it's 2:30 p.m., so he's ready to roll. A good stick says hello. So Honda recently announced Activia E. It's a scooter that will be sold in India that will be fully electric. It has removable batteries, so there's no need to worry about battery longevity. It's a battery as a service model, so you pay a monthly subscription for swappable batteries. When you buy the scooter, it doesn't come with a battery pack, as you need to go battery station and put it in the swappable battery pack. Interesting. And the battery pack is the size of a small Amazon package. That's an interesting idea, especially for a scooter. E-bikes, things like that can make a lot of sense. I hadn't heard that, so very cool. And I think e-bikes and things like that are really fun. I've had a few of the like knockoff e-bike brands that have offered to have me like review them and like just send them to me and give them to me for free. But it's just something that I've pretty confident we get like almost 0 views. That's why I haven't dabbled in that yet. But it's a really fun idea. My one friend's really strongly considering getting one here. But anyway, Ming, thank you so much for a super chat here. He says, Matt, I need your help. I currently have a Tesla Model Y, but recently got T-boned. Yikes. Want your advice whether I should get Civic Si, GR86, or Elantra N. Well, happy that you're okay and the car did its job there. But sorry to hear about the accident. That's never any fun. As far as which one to get, they all prioritize different things. So it's really going to come down to exactly, what you're looking for really at the end of the day. Obviously, especially GR86 being the one that's completely opposite with being rear-wheel drive. I'd say Elantra N obviously is the fastest and I think is the most hardcore of the bunch. And I'd argue the Elantra N is the most character-filled one of the bunch, having the active exhaust the others don't have, having the adaptive dampers, having just so much customization, all the fancy stuff, launch control and all this. There's just a lot in the Elantra N. It's got a lot of toys in it. And it's a phenomenal car. I still think if you're an enthusiast and you got 35 grand to spend, it's really the best you can do, I think, as a Elantra N from a horsepower per dollar standpoint, from a smile per mile kind of standpoint. It's really top notch. GR86 though, obviously, doesn't have all that drama, but it's a good sports car, and it's just a good platforming rear-wheel drive, sitting a little lower, being an actual sports car, not just a souped up economy car. And there's a key difference there. And so if souped up economy car sounds good to you, absolutely go for Elantra N. But if you want a real sports car, GR86 for that same money is the way to go. Civic Si, comparing to those other two, again, I think Si is the most comfortable, less sporty one of those three. And SI, I would say, is easier to live with as far as just, comfort, even though Elantra N has the adaptive dampers. Even in their softest setting, it's not super soft, and it's still a little, steering's a little quicker. It's just a little more intense, even in its softest modes compared to the SI. So, SI is just, if you want to have a little bit of fun, you want to have the manual, but you're not super, serious or intense, and 200 horsepower is good enough for you, or you're happy to go and mod it to get it to where you need it to be. SI can be good as well. But yeah, so I mean, that kind of hopefully gives you a layout of, which thing will fit whatever you're looking for there, hopefully. If it were my money, I'd go GR86 just because I love rear wheel drive and it's a ton of fun. But if I needed something that I was going to use every day and I had, to put my daughter in the back, then I'd probably be an Elantra N instead. I'm almost at the point where I would go SI because it's a little more subdued, and Elantra N is a little loud visually for my personality type, but it's such a good car that I think I'd just suck it up and deal with it. And I'd still go for it because it's just, Elantra N is just so good. So that's probably the way I would go. Hopefully that helps you a little bit, Ming. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions. I'll try and keep an eye out. I see you say appreciate the advice. So happy to help, and feel free. Any other questions you have, you can always reach out in any of the description stuff in the lower part of the video there with all the contact info. That's the word I was looking for, to reach out if you would like any extra context you want to provide or anything else. I'm always happy to provide extra options as well to make it extra confusing for you, since I am way too analytical with that stuff. But thank you so much again for the super chat. And let me see. So Brian says, good evening, everyone. Hope you all had a good Thanksgiving. I agree. Hope everyone had a great time. And Danny says, I got to honk the horn at someone on Thanksgiving. I was driving back from my grandma's with my dad when a 2020 Acura RDX blew a yield, nearly sideswiped a RAV4 in front of us, and just almost hit us. Yikes. And we were about 5 minutes from my house. Yeah, it's funny how it seems like accidents oftentimes, according to insurance companies, statistically, they have a higher chance of happening near your house than far away from home, especially Thanksgiving. Lots of crazies driving around as well. So not a great day for driving. And he also said after they almost sideswiped the RAV4, they then thought they were in the clear, didn't see me and my dad, and just almost pulled straight. And my dad physically heard my hand slap the horn. I swear the East Coast is filled with bad drivers. I think that's just everywhere. Anyone with a pulse gets a driver's license in America, pretty much. So that's just an American problem in particular. But Danny says also, we were in our 2019 Traverse. Also, how the heck do you not see a 4,300-pound SUV coming straight toward you? You'd be surprised. This is something you'll definitely become all too acquainted with here as you do some more driving here, and hope all the lessons are going well, by the way, Danny. But yeah, that is par for the course on a Thanksgiving, I think. Good Six asking, any crappy drivers on Thanksgiving? When Black Friday came around, the roads became racetracks. Yeah, it was especially, it's just that time of year. But I mean, I saw more bad driving in the past week than I've seen in at least the past 3 to 4 months combined. It just brings them all out. So it's the way it goes. I see. Thanks for stopping by, Cars, as well. And Anthony and Raphael says, hello, Matt, and hello all. Matt, how are you doing with the snow? I'm getting buried. That's crazy. We had a light dusting here on, I think it was Friday morning, and that's been it. No snow really yet other than that. But I mean, no, even like Erie, which is just, like 2.5, 3 hours north of us here in PA, they got hammered. So we got very lucky. And so, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I had heard that this winter, at least around here, was going to be fairly mild, and we didn't even get into December before their predictions were immediately proven wrong. And it's already getting pretty cold. This whole past few days, it's been in the 20s. So it's dropped faster than usual for a end of November, early December typically. So I hope you're holding up okay there with the snow at Raphael. And it's a good time of year for the all-wheel drive stuff for sure. Michelle says, was driving on a 2-lane road. A Porsche decided they were more important and passed me in the oncoming lane. When I made it to the intersection, the Porsche was also at the red light. Wasted effort. I mean, I know I'm probably guilty of, zipping around sometimes as well. Definitely never in the oncoming lane. That's insane. But there's been some of those times in the past where I've been awkwardly that person. I was trying to make up, some time, and then I end up getting stuck at a red light. But then there's also, it goes both ways. There's other times too where people are really driving like idiots around me, and then I love just like inching up right behind them at a red light and being like, "Hi, didn't get away." You didn't. All that stress didn't pay off. Sometimes it does pay off. There's been some times where I just barely snuck through the yellow or whatever. And, if I hadn't been slicing and dicing, but it's rare that I do that, especially these days. I've really kind of calmed down as a driver. But I remember in my younger days, for sure, I was on the receiving end of that situation sometimes as well. But it's funny. Cara says, thankfully, I didn't see a lot of wild drivers around Thanksgiving. The sad thing is that there were a lot of broken down abandoned cars on the side of the interstate afterward, about one every 2 miles. Wow, that's surprising. I'd be curious what you were seeing cars as far as, were they certain brands? Was it kind of just random all over the place? I actually surprisingly saw what looked like a very new Grand Cherokee 4xe broken down yesterday. And the 4xe Wrangler I had last year had a check engine light that it threw me. I don't know about those 4xes. I mean, obviously very anecdotal. Maybe they're, really good for the most part, but I think I've seen a couple of those broken down now. And not what you want to see. You just dropped over 50 grand on a Grand Cherokee, and then you are stuck in holiday traffic holding everyone up because you have a broken down brand new car on the side of the road. Not a good look. I mean, I really try to give Stellantis the benefit of the doubt, but I see more Stellantis stuff these days on the side of the road than anything else, typically speaking. It's a shame. And Brian says, evening chat, excited for the Jaguar premiere tomorrow. Do or die for them. It really does seem like it will be do or die for sure. I'm very interested. Unfortunately, tomorrow I'm going to be busy doing something more fun, so I won't be able to cover that live or do any kind of live reaction video because I will be on the road. But it's and you'll wait and see what I'm going to be doing here this week. Another controversial thing, but not the Jag things. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see with Jag. I think that's the part that people kind of miss. I know Good Six also saying here just next a couple of comments down about the video. The Jaguar ad got a lot of people commenting. Yeah, that was my most disliked video I've posted maybe ever. I think it's like 67% thumbs up or something. It's pretty bad, but yeah, it was wild to see people's opinions on your take. Yeah, I think that's also the key component. I mean, obviously everyone's welcome to disagree, and I clearly people made that very clear in the comments on that video. But I think that the real thing that people don't understand, people are like, oh, it's going to hurt their sales, blah, blah, blah. They don't have any sales. It's a Hail Mary. They literally quit building everything. I think maybe the F-Pace is still in production on fumes, but like they told Jag dealers, like, you have nothing to sell for the next year. You're selling pre-owned cars exclusively at your Jag dealers for the next year. It basically can't get any worse from a sales standpoint for Jag. So they're truly at rock bottom. So that's the difference here. People are talking about Bud Light and Target and all this other crap. Those are strong companies that have products that are, continuing to produce. Jag literally can't sell you anything for at least another year. That's why they're not trying to sell you a car right now. They're not trying to do any of that stuff. And it truly is do or die for them. So there is no worst case scenario. It's literally, if this doesn't work, they'll go under. If they had never tried this, they would have gone under anyway. Like this is a no lose situation, to be completely honest. I know other people think they could have packaged it better and made it more appealing, but like, again, they can't sell you a car right now new, and Jaguar only cares about selling new cars, like that. They don't make any money off pre-owned stuff. So like, they have nothing to lose from a corporate Jaguar standpoint. The equity has already been in the crapper because no one's been buying them, and the company would have gone under anyway. So, it is a Hail Mary thing. It really is. And so that's, I think, the big difference between this and other brands that have tried this before. And maybe they've regretted it and they've had, a rough year in sales afterwards, or whatever the case might be. But Jaguar doesn't have that to lose. They're already at the bottom. So it's only up from here, I think. Maybe they could have gone up faster in a better way if they did something differently. But at the end of the day, it is all upside because they are literally not building any Jags right now, or selling them. Like, that's it. So, Anyway, that's the last thing I'll say about the Jag thing. Is clearly that was not a popular thing to talk about, and a lot of people think I'm completely idiotic after hearing that. So we'll move on from the Jag thing. But I appreciate those of you who decided to still support, and even if you don't, I mean, that's the fun thing about talking cars or talking about anything, is being able to disagree with people and not hate them afterwards, and being able to just exchange opinions, as idiotic as they might be to the other person. Just exchanging ideas is, I think, still can potentially be a productive thing if we do it in a healthy manner. But anyway, moving on here, I see B Mitchell saying, don't talk to me about snow up in North Dakota this week, -6, and got a dusting to 2 inches of snow today, so they're up to 10 inches here. Man, yeah, it sounds like it starts nice and early there for you guys up there. That's crazy. Yeah, and even yeah, I know. I think some parts of Canada got hit pretty good too. So it's fun times. I'm jealous because I do love snow, and we don't get a whole lot here in Pittsburgh. So I know that's probably an easy thing to say in my nice cozy house and all that, but I wouldn't mind more snow, honestly. But let me see. Michelle says, saw an R8 Spider at my mall yesterday. Such a cool car. Those are awesome. I've always loved those. And Danny says, my dad said the worst blizzard in New Jersey was his freshman year of college in '96. The snow was up to his waist. Yeah, there was also a blizzard in '93 here in Pittsburgh that just slammed it. And obviously I was like 3 years old, so I vaguely remember it, if at all, really. I might just remember the pictures, but yeah, there's a couple of those there in the '90s that were pretty good. And Evander, thanks for stopping by as well. And let me see. Will from San Diego, thanks for saying hi. And Evander says, stay safe, everyone on the East Coast. Lots of snow coming in. Yeah, we'll see how much actually comes in, because they were talking a big game this past week, and then it was pretty mild, at least here. So we will see what happens here this week. I will be in a sunnier place, so I won't have to worry about it myself. But yeah, I know everyone else getting around, even, Beth is going to have to deal with that if she drives in it. So we will see. But let me see. I see Alexi says, something I'm watching from Argentina. That's awesome. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for watching. And yeah, that's so cool. I'd love to someday be able to chat more with some of you individually. I'd love to hear how Argentina is and what you like about it. It's so cool. So many people watching from all over the world here. And let me see. Linda says, I'm glad that Danny's an honorary member. Ooh, thank goodness. Yep, just because it's just not his luck here, it seems, these past several weeks. Matrix also says, my Jaguar Corolla comes in next Friday here in Tennessee. I can't wait. That's awesome. I don't know how much snow you're expecting in Tennessee, but that could be a very fun way to get acquainted with that car and its limits, is take it out on some snowy roads, preferably snowy parking lot first, and see what it can do. But you're in for a good time, hopefully, with the Jaguar Corolla. And congrats on getting one. And thanks for supporting the cause, Matrix. And let me see. Andrew says Nissan looks to be in rough shape. Yeah, talked about that in the weekly update. It's 12 to 14 months. We will see how long they last. And Moody says, 26-year-old MDX customer from last week, looking for your thoughts on the 18 to 2020 MDX and what a good alternative could be. Mazda CX-9, is Infiniti worth any consideration? I don't love anything from Infiniti in that time period personally. CX-9 is a great alternative if you want to save a little bit of money over MDX. Trying to think of other stuff at that point in time. I mean, it really comes down to how big of a vehicle you need. If you really need 3 rows, everything in that time period, I'd say MDX is probably going to be your best bet. It's going to have one of the better third rows for that generation. Yeah, otherwise, I don't know. I mean, if you're willing to go down to regular stuff, I also think Pilot of that generation is really good too. Really well done third row in that. And yeah, it just comes down to, I guess, how flexible you are, because Telluride, was that 2020? Early Tellurides probably be great, especially if you get one certified, still has the 10-year, 100,000 mile powertrain warranty on it. What else? I mean, yeah, if your limit is like 2020, I guess that kind of excludes any of the newer stuff that's really impressive, like, Grand Highlander is, one of my favorites, or any of the other newer things. I'd have to like really scan through all my options again because I don't really check out that segment a whole lot of those earlier stuff. I'm so focused on some of the more modern stuff here. That's the fresher stuff in my brain. But I mean, MDX is very solid, option as long as you don't mind that dated infotainment. Yeah, without looking at an exhaustive list, I'd probably say MDX actually probably be my pick. That's probably my best suggestion. So I think you're already on the right track there with the MDX. But CX-9 is fantastic as well. Just again, smaller third row, and but I really love CX-9 actually. I think it's very well done. So definitely another one that's worth considering. And between those two, probably some of the top ones that I can think of in that segment. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I really love Pilot though too. So if you're willing to go down, a little bit, Pilot also probably be worth considering. Hopefully, that helps you a little bit there, Moody. And Jordan, thank you so much for being a member here for 14 months now. I really appreciate it. He says, "Hey Matt, I watched an NBC segment on BYD. Seems it's well on its way to the US. Will this force the US to actually produce an affordable EV?" Interesting. Yeah, I hadn't seen that segment. I'll be curious to try and look that up and see what they're saying there. Because to me, BYD, it's still kind of been up in the air. Obviously, they're trying to, come into the States, and there was the talk of them a few months back, considering building a factory in Mexico and trying to get stuff in that way. But I don't know. I mean, I think, especially Ford. I mean, like Jim Farley, I think drives, what is it, an Exomi or whatever. I can't even pronounce the brand, but he's like, that's his daily driver, and he like doesn't want to give it up, supposedly, is what he said. So like, Ford especially is well aware of the Chinese competition and just how good they are. And, all these companies have been trying to get to an affordable EV for a while there. It hasn't been, a new revelation, even with the Chinese stuff. I mean, look at Bolt. Bolt's been around for 2 generations now. There's going to be a third here coming. That's been an affordable EV for a long time. It's just, now that's becoming more in demand. Before it was just kind of like this dorky thing that a few people wanted. And now it's, really getting to be, but I mean, look at first gen Bolt, still over 200 miles of range, still, pretty solid. And especially you get one of the ones with the recalled batteries, you get a brand new battery pack in it and you're good to go. I mean, and or a fresher battery, I guess, because they did the recall a little while ago. But I mean, this isn't a new phenomenon. GM has always been trying to bring out the people's EV, really, and I think Equinox EV is also fantastic and really is pretty affordable in these days where 30 is the new 20 from an inflation standpoint with money. Equinox EV coming in just over 35 grand, was it 37 and a half now until the fully base one comes online. But and if you can snag one before the tax credit goes away here, you're down to 30 grand. So that's $30,000 again for a lot of people is still a lot of money, but relatively speaking, with the average transaction price for cars being what, like 48 or something, 50 grand, I mean, it's well under that. And so an Equinox EV is no penalty box. It is super nice. It gives you all the luxuries you want, especially in the higher trims. Really, I mean, I love it. Like if it had CarPlay, it would be a top consideration for us whenever we needed to replace the Mach-E. I like it that much. So there's some really great stuff out there already. Not just the GM stuff, but I mean, even Mach-E's, you can get at least one of those cheap. I mean, like I just talked about the Prologue EV that I just posted a review of yesterday, $229 a month. You're not going to get much more affordable than that in 2024 or 2025. Ioniq 5, you can lease one of those things right now for under $200 a month with a couple grand down, but you can adjust that and ditch the money down and have a higher payment. But regardless, we're talking about very affordable payments for cars that are 40, even sometimes almost $50,000 for $200, $300 a month. I mean, that is about as affordable as it gets. Some people's cell phone bills are more expensive than that. So I mean, I think we're already there. I think we already have affordable EVs, and it can only get so cheap, especially with US crash safety standards and everyone wanting to have all the sensors on the front for automated this and that and the other, and screens inside that are big and all this stuff. It's I mean, Ford is saying they want to still hit a 25 grand EV, as does GM. I think they will get there, but I think that's going to depend on battery costs continuing to fall. Supposedly, it will reach cost parity with gas in 2026, is what the analysts have been saying recently. And so that's what they're waiting on. I mean, the cars themselves can get there. It's just the battery is the part that's holding it back. Once those battery costs fall, they can transfer that on to the consumer. And then, it might not have to be that there's a new car, even. It could just be Yeah, the Equinox EV used to be 35 grand. Now it's 30 because the battery is way cheaper. And then that, comes in as the affordable one. But they are working on smaller stuff because not everyone needs something as big as an Equinox EV or, any of these others. And so, like Bolt, I think is going to be that 25 grand EV for them. And, Bolt, I just spent, a week with the last generation about a year or so ago. Maybe it was closer to a year and a half at this point, but it was great. It was a great little car, great little commuter. I think they're doing some really good stuff. So yeah, I mean, BYD could still come in and undercut that even more. But it's going to come down to, I guess, policy decisions and how much we want to protect the American car companies and the American market in general. Not even just American car companies, but all car companies. Um, you know, um, it just is a lot of it comes down to, I guess, theological differences as far as, do you truly want it to be just best car wins, no matter what the cost? If that's your position, then BYD should come in and just destroy the market, and then especially people that are worried about EV takeover. I mean, once everyone's offered the option of a $20,000 impressive Chinese EV, and they don't have to do oil changes, don't have to pay for gas, and all this other stuff, it's going to be game over. If you're worried about the EV market taking over, BYD is a great way to accelerate that and get rid of your gas cars faster. If that's which I think a lot of enthusiasts don't want to see. So I think it just comes down to, again, how your feelings are on that. But it'll be interesting to see how this next year goes. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. Things could change very quickly, and I think even, I don't know if it was Farley, but there was some executives are saying this is going to be a year of consolidation in 2025. We're seeing, again, Nissan is struggling, Mitsubishi, a lot of these companies are struggling. We might see some companies actually, if not go out of business, have some real bad times here. And it's going to be a major year of shakeup. It could also be a year for supply issues again, depending on how tariffs go. We might see car prices rise again as a result of tariffs, and we might be back into a 2020, 2021 kind of situation where, we start having everything shoot up in price again. It's everything is a possibility right now. So nothing predictable about 2025 whatsoever. So we'll just have to see how it plays out. And Justin, thank you so much, man. Remember, for 27 months now. I really appreciate that. He says, hey, man, hope all is well. Just curious, are you guys running dedicated winter tires for the Mach-E or just normal all seasons? Just the normal all seasons. We've been running the factory tires, the Michelin Primacy all seasons. And the crazy thing is they are basically shot. So I've been waiting to I'm not going to say the brand, because if the deal falls through, I don't want to give them a shout out, but I'm waiting for tires from a brand that is wanting to partner up with me for new tires for the Mach-E. And so we will hopefully be putting some fresh tires on the Mach-E here as we get into these snowy months, because I definitely don't want her to drive around tires that are down to 4:30 seconds. Don't love that at all. And those Michelins especially get a little slick whenever they get low. So so never put winter tires on the Mach-E. We don't drive it enough to really need them. Typically, we are starting to do a little more driving. We're doing more activities with our daughter, and she's signed up for more stuff now. So there's a little less flexibility of just being we'll just stay home today. We don't have that luxury quite as much as we did in the past. So we'll see. I just, that car's a lease, and it's also only got now less than 2 years to go before we get rid of it. It's actually down to almost a year and a half. So it wouldn't be worth, really, it's, in my opinion, investing in winter wheels and tires for that. So we're just going to stick it out in the all seasons. And thankfully, with the press cars, and a lot of them being, again, all these, everyone wants rugged stuff. So half these press cars are, very outdoorsy anyway. So we rely on the press cars a lot as well if it's a snowier day. But the Mach-E's been fine so far. And, once we get some fresh tires on it, I don't have any doubts that it'll be, totally fine. And for most of the stuff around here, they clean up the roads really fast around here too. So I can usually count on one hand the amount of snows each year that I have to actually get out the snowblower for, where the streets are actually covered and I'm driving on snow covered streets. It's very rare. So, not too worried about it myself. But also, Moody, thank you so much for a super chat. I really appreciate it. He says, I just appreciate the size, not super interested in a third row. I appreciate how my '07 MDX drives and felt an 18 to 20 would be good as a natural evolution. About 23 grand cap right now. I appreciate your opinion. Okay, well, yeah, especially if you're used to MDX, you like the brand. I'm assuming maybe you have a good relationship with the dealer as well, potentially. If you have that comfort level in it, with Acura and the way they do things, and again, because I think the MDX is probably one of the better ones in that segment anyway, I'd say that's probably the way to go. Yeah, I mean, I also, depending on how much space you actually need, RDX is pretty big for this current generation. I believe that started in 2020. 23 grand might be a little low for what I think RDXs are maybe for the higher mileage ones a little bit more than that. So yeah, an older MDX, that's probably honestly the way to go. I think that you'll probably really like that evolution. Obviously, like everything, test drive it first, see what you think, poke around, see how it all works for you. But yeah, I think MDX is probably one of the best choices for you there. But if you'd like to, send me an email or something, go over some of the extra context of what you're looking for exactly, and I can spend some more time to kind of look through all the options out there, at that price range. I'd be more than happy to dig into that. It's just something that off the top of my head, it's really tough for me to do without, looking and seeing what prices are for things, because things are changing so much as well. And so that's something that's, just needs a little bit more research usually, but hopefully it helps you a little bit. And yeah, feel free to please send me an email. I'm more than happy to help you. I love helping people find cars they'll love. That's why I do what I do. So always happy to talk through that. And let me see here, getting back to the other member questions. So where were we? Blue Collar says to get a Civic Type R. That's just a lot more expensive. That's the only thing about that. But Evander says test drove a CT5V and a M340i this weekend. And being honest, the CT5V actually disappointed me compared to the BMW, having such high hopes for the CT5. Interesting. I'll be curious. So the BMW had more power and felt better put together. Gotcha. Okay. I mean, I can see those two things, especially, depending on how you drive too. The ZF8 speed's a lot faster to react sometimes than the 10 speed in the Cadillac. There's a few times you can catch the Cadillac off guard. And it's also, I think, just by the numbers, right? M340i has more horsepower, if I'm not mistaken. So you're definitely going to probably feel some of that. And also those BMWs are so underrated as from a power standpoint. Like they say it's however many horsepower, and then, they dyno them, and it's like doing that at the wheels instead of the crank, So, I'm sure the BMW pushes, above its weight class there a little bit, but that's the great thing about, cars. And this is why test driving is so important, because even if I would rather have a CT5V, it's not for everyone. And so absolutely glad, you figured that out for yourself. And yeah, it's, I'm trying to think of other things about the M340i from my experience that were better than the Cadillac. Sound is probably a little bit better, I'd say, for the BMW as well. And I don't know. See, to me, the brand new CT5V, the tech is better than the BMW personally, but I could see for sure there's a little more plastic in the Cadillac than the BMW, and the BMW probably just feels, a little more high quality. So I can certainly see that. It just, it all comes down to priorities. But glad you're able to test drive them, though. That's good to hear too, that dealers are not being super uptight on CT5Es or M340Is. That's good to hear, and glad you had a fun weekend of test driving there. And Linda said, I saw 2 Tesla Cybertrucks on the road today. Yeah, I see them from time to time as well. They're fairly popular around here, and actually just saw one, what was it, like 2 nights ago, blinding me with that light bar in the oncoming lane there. And Good Six says, I got a Switch OLED for Black Friday. That's awesome. Yeah, and there's some pretty good deals out there, actually. We were able to pick up one of the Black Friday deals, actually started last week, was the new Apple Watch. We got the Series 10 finally. We had Series 4s, and Beth's battery on hers was starting to it almost wouldn't make it through the whole day. Mine was still actually okay with that. Mine was just kind of laggy with some of the loading and stuff because it was 6 years old. And for tech, that's a pretty good amount of time. So upgrade to the 10s here, and really like it's a little bit slimmer than the old ones, and so that's nice. It gets in the way less often than than the old one did. But Yavinder says the BMW. Okay, yeah, I already saw that comment. And Truck and Car Guy says saw Silverado SS this morning at the gym. That's awesome. Those are definitely rare. Back whenever I lived with my parents 10 years ago, there was someone in that neighborhood that had a Silverado SS and drove so slow. They're always going like like 5 or 10 under the speed limit. And I'm like, why did you buy an SS Silverado if you're going to drive it like a grandpa? I mean, I think they actually were, a very older gentleman, but like, why get the SS if you're going to drive so slow? I think they also had an SSR. I think that's the convertible truck Chevy thing, right? It's called the SSR. And they just always drove so slow in these cool cars. I mean, they're probably pristine collectors for whoever got them after that guy. But yeah, I haven't seen a Silverado SS in a long time, though. That's funny. And let me see. I see POV Drive says, "Hey Matt, you like US Shmi and OG vehicle reviewer, respect. I'm like the US Shmi, gotcha. Respect. I grew up watching you and can't believe it's been so long since I started watching you. I appreciate all the support over the years. And yeah, Shmi is awesome as well. And he's been doing some stuff in the US here too, a lot more recently. And yeah, I was actually able to co-drive with him for the C8 Corvette launch back in 2020, and had the fortunate opportunity to hang out with him a couple of times, and he's a very, very nice guy, and always happy to bump into Shmi. But Goth Rocker says, happy Carlos Tavares is gone as CEO of Stellantis. They met with the new United States administration. He didn't want to bring back the V8s, and now he's no longer CEO. Very good news. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, it seems like Tavares has made some mistakes in a lot of ways. I'm not sure about the V8s because, I mean, Tim Kuniskis was, the one who led us through all the Hellcat days, and he's the one that, led us most of the way through here to the Charger EVs. He just retired a few months ago once Charger EV was pretty much done. So, I still think his influence will be there. I think this is why, the thing's going to have an exhaust or, pipes connected to a speaker in the back of this Charger that's going to be as loud as the old Hellcat on the outside. I think that's, a Tim Kuniskis kind of thing, and his leadership of doing that kind of stuff. I think, I mean, I don't know, what happened behind the scenes, but I think, Carlos let him do what he needed to do within the restrictions that he needed to be in, and we'll just have to see how it plays out. But I'm very curious to drive Charger EV here and see how it is. Yeah, it's one of the ones I'll be reviewing it very, very soon, because they are 2024s technically for the first one, so it's going to be this month. I'll say that. And those of you who are members have a little bit of more of a hunch about that as well, since I just posted the new upload schedule today. Yeah, we will see how it plays out for them. I think there's definitely some mistakes made at Stellantis, but then it's also just challenging market conditions. We're seeing everyone else, layoffs, plant closures, all kinds of struggles. So this is not unique to Stellantis either. They might have been the first to display symptoms of this greater issue in the car industry in general, but we've been seeing this from a lot of companies. So this is just, the industry in general is just in some rough times right now for sure. And I think it's going to get better before it gets worse, or gets worse before it gets better. B. Mitchell said, interesting that Tavares left effective immediately today from Stellantis, rattling a sinking ship. Okay, I didn't hear that. Okay, so that's news. I'm out of the loop today. Then I didn't, because he was supposed to wait till his contract was done the end of or early 2026, right? Was when he was supposed. So he actually just took off today. Wow. So I'm just processing this in real time. Wow. Okay. Well, that's a horse of a different color. So interesting. Wow. Well, I wonder how that's going to play out, man. I feel bad. I have some friends at Stellantis too, that, I've been lucky enough to, know pretty well some of these people that, work within Stellantis, and then, man, that's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Wow. I'm going to have to look into that more here. And if anyone wants to fill me in the comments while we're chatting here, to give me a little bit more, I'm curious if there's any other details or what happened there. But Man, yeah, this like I'm telling you, this whole year coming up, buckle up. It's gonna be wild, absolutely wild. I've never been more uncertain for the future of the car industry and just things in general, but especially the car industry. I think even with the stuff with all the GM brands floating in 2008, even that I think was less dramatic than all the drama we've been seeing with all this stuff here this year and kind of culminating slowly to stuff we're going to see happen in 2025. Will Nissan make it into 2026? I don't know. Will Chrysler make it? One of these other brands, these storied brands, I don't know. It's gonna be wild. I've been kind of going back and forth about whether I keep the weekly updates around or whether I, get rid of them just because the views have been pretty crap for the most part. Although this past week was a nice change of pace and actually got decent views, but typically they've been really dropping off this year, and it's getting really debatable from a time standpoint, versus how much money they make. But I feel like this year coming up is going to be so wild. It's going to be hard not to talk about it. But I'm still considering maybe just doing topical videos on one breaking news story because I think news ages so fast, and that's part of the problem with the weekly updates is it's just stale by the time Friday comes along. But yeah, I got to figure out how to play that because I just feel like there's going to be so much crazy crap that happens next year in the car industry, I think, and I think it's going to be worth covering, especially those of us who've been watching and watched the weekly updates and are, been following a lot of this stuff for so long. It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. But man, anyway, Kyle, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships as well. I really appreciate it, and happy to see a bunch of people able to get their memberships there, but still not Danny, unfortunately. But we will see if YouTube ever gives him a membership again here. And thank you so much, Kyle, for the generosity. I really appreciate it. And Jordan, thank you so much for another super chat. Sorry I missed it earlier. He said, maybe a dumb question, but what does WRX mean? It means World Rallycross is what it means, I believe. There's also World Rally Experimental, I think was another one. So I'm not I think I can't remember actually which one of the two it is. It's one or the other. Someone can correct me, but it's one of those two. But it's all about the rallying there. And let me see here. Other member questions. I got to get caught up. I know I'm lagging here with my tangents. So let me see. Raphael says, I'm at 22 inches of snow already and supposed to keep coming through Tuesday. Won't be going anywhere this week. Man, that's crazy. Yeah, no kidding. Stay warm and try and enjoy the snow if you can. That's nuts. And stay safe as well. Good Six says, when I started my car, it took longer to start the engine. The cold weather is going to be a struggle. Yeah, that's the way it goes. Make sure your batteries are strong. Make sure your tires are good. Make sure all your maintenance has been, done well, and then you're all set there for those cold winter months here. And he says he's in Northeast Ohio too. That's a lot for Northeast Ohio, but I know Erie got a lot too. And Vishal says suddenly got colder in North Carolina, highs in the 40s and lows in the 20s. Crazy. Yeah, I feel like it's pretty cold for North Carolina, right? It's like I said, it dropped fast around here too. Goth says, I want gasoline engines. Let people choose. If you want EV, go ahead. You want V8 or gas, go ahead. America is a free market, freedom of choice. I never liked or agreed with this EV push. Yeah, and I mean, this is why, I think every state, even California, said, you can have the option for a plug-in hybrid, even in 2035. No one's ever been forced into an EV, and I don't think anyone in America was going to try that for a long time. And so you just have to see how it all plays out. I do think there is freedom of choice is great, but I think that there also needs to be regulation so that it's not just a free for all, because I do think there needs to be attempts to not smog up LA and attempts to not just pollute however much you want. So I think that there's everything in moderation, I think is kind of my viewpoint there. But I think that's, again, what we saw in the laws, even in Biden's climate thing, it was just, we need to hit these MPG numbers. You hit them any way you want. If you're a Toyota, you hit them with plug-in hybrids, you hit them with hybrids, you hit them with whatever. If you're wanting to sell gas guzzlers, then that means you got to sell EVs on the other side. But it was all up to people to choose and the companies to choose what they wanted to do with it, and I think that was the smart approach versus some of the European countries that actually do have EV mandates and are very pushy with the EV thing. I think we're seeing some of that backfire. And I think that, with engineers, you give them the opportunity to, come up with these interesting solutions like Ram Charger, these plug-in hybrids, these range extenders, all these other creative things you can do to still hit that and give people the flexibility that they need, while still, having regard for efficiency and, emissions and all that stuff. So I don't think it has to be an everything or nothing kind of thing. But yeah, everyone obviously sees that differently. And unfortunately, it's been politicized as well, which makes it even worse. But Trent Car Guy says we've been having issues with the 4xe rentals, whether it be Rams or Cherokees. Interesting. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like that may be something. Again, it's not a good look, and it doesn't help the brand. Like I said, I saw that Grand Cherokee 4xe sitting on the side of the road. Everyone noticed that. All these, probably thousands of drivers, while Grand Cherokee is sitting there on the side of the road, all these thousands of drivers being like, wow, guy in a brand new Jeep and it's stranded. They guess they must be junk, that's just the impression you're going to give people too. So not only is it bad for the driver and for, the loyalty there, but it's also just a bad look for everybody else to see, so we will see. Again, I'm very curious to see what, especially now their CEO just, taken off. That is, wow. There's going to be so many good movies made about 2024, 2025. If we live to see them be made, it's going to be nuts. Anyway, moving on here. Evander says, thoughts on Nissan going downhill? I've seen your weekly update on it, but what's your thoughts on Nissan going down personally? I think I kind of said most of my thoughts, I think, in the weekly update still. I'd be sad, obviously. There's a lot of things that are sad about, not only just, incredible, iconic, legendary cars, never having a new generation, but also, Nissan is still an enormous employer. So we're talking tons of jobs that would be lost. And this is why a lot of people said like Nissan is too big to fail, kind of like, GM and all that stuff again we saw in 2008. And, maybe the Japanese government would bail out Nissan, or other companies would come in, or someone would come in and buy it. But if it's not a viable business model, maybe there's some low-hanging fruit to boost stuff a little bit, but I feel like Nissan's tried everything. They're finally now having fresh product. I think the problem that they're seeing right now, though, is that they just have some stale stuff, and that stale stuff is being replaced. Armada, Murano, like these are high profit margin vehicles that they are, having brand new, seemingly impressive, new generations of here coming literally in the next few weeks. So like, this is why I think for 2025, it'll come down to also the market conditions, obviously. But as long as the market isn't super hostile to new car sales, I think Nissan is starting to position themselves to, come out on the other end of this thing, potentially. It just took time, and they kind of are in this pinch point where, they have still some older stuff. I still think they just spent too much money, like having, Captain Marvel, I can't remember her name off the top of my head. It's evading me, but having her, like, you should not be paying a celebrity, like I said in the weekly update, so I think there's some dumb mistakes made there, but I think that's not going to save them. I think it's really going to come down to this product and just getting this product out there and getting it out there well. Like, these kicks that are now being sold and these Armadas and Muranos that are coming here in the next, month or two, they're going to have to be perfect. If they have any glitches with them, if they have any teething issues, it's going to just drive them into the ground faster. But if they're solid products, they get the word out effectively that, hey, there's these new vehicles, come and get them, and they price them well and all that. I think that we could see things looking up a little bit for Nissan in 2025. Obviously, there's still some struggles. The Rogue is pretty old at this point, and the Rogue is, the number one seller. So it's not all, rainbows and butterflies for them just yet, but I think they're on the right path, so we'll see. There's so much talk about Honda buying them, though, and I cannot see a world where Honda thinks that's a good decision for them. Again, I'm sure there's more stuff behind the scenes, maybe under consideration, but as an outsider, armchair product planner over here, like I don't see why Honda has any need for any Nissan product at all. Again, maybe Armada. That's it. Everything else, Honda has every segment covered that Nissan's covering. So it just doesn't seem like it's, a worthwhile thing to collab on. But it's obviously, it'd be sad. I don't want to see them go under. I never want to see a car company do badly. So personally, I'd hate to see it. But it does seem like, you know, it's getting more and more likely. But I have a little more faith in Nissan than I think a lot of other people do. I think get these new products out, get them out well, and I think hopefully they'll be okay. We'll see. And Danny says, a couple months ago, I saw a JDM Delica on the road. I love the old box Japanese vans. I think it was a turbo diesel. Nice. I couldn't even tell. Is the Delica, is that a Suzuki? I don't even remember what brand the Delica was. I'm not super up on my old JDM vans. I love them, but I'm just, aside from the few main staples there, I'm not super familiar on all of them. But that's awesome. I always love seeing JDM stuff on the road. And it's so fun. And Decepticon, thanks for stopping by. Dragon Cargo says, unfortunately, a lot of the new rentals are having issues, especially hybrids, from companies new to it. Well, that certainly makes sense, I think. And this is why, it's really easy to recommend Toyotas. They've been doing it for 25 years with the hybrids or whatever. It's, you're not going to get burned most likely. And so that's why it's, very easy to recommend. Yoth Rocker says, I don't care how cool the new Jag is. They will never top the F-Type and the sound. Even the large XJ sedan, I almost bought one, but reliability worried me, so I went with the Continental. Yeah, I think that was probably the right choice there, because I think XJs could be a little problematic too. I agree, though. I love the F-Type. That is my all-time favorite Jag, so I'm right there with you. It's going to be different. It's definitely going to be different. These new Jags, especially if they're going to be all electric, they're going to be bigger, they're going to be heavier, and they're not going to be as good as the F-Type from, the emotion and all that. But, we're seeing some really cool stuff. I think, again, we're in the infancy of EVs, and if Jag is going to be bold with the styling like we saw with that prototype, then I think, for the market they're going for, they'll be fine. That's the other thing. One other quick little thing I'll say about the Jag. They're going for the 1% of the 1%. We're talking about, vehicles that are going to be 150 grand or more to start all of them. They don't want old Jag buyers. Old Jag buyers can't afford new Jags, most likely. I mean, obviously a few exceptions, but, most people aren't spending 150 grand on a Jag in the past 10 years, so they have to abandon their whole fan base. And that's why they don't care about making that fan base happy, because none of those people can afford, 150 grand Jag, generally speaking. Again, there's a few percentages of people that, can, but on the whole, that's not the market they're going for. And that's the other thing people don't understand. Like, this is just done, to appeal to those high fashion, artsy people that love that Jag ad. They're the same people that watch Gucci ads or whatever other ads, pick whatever luxury brand you want. Their ads are all usually goofy and off the wall, but that appeals to that demographic. I assume that's why they keep doing it, right? Otherwise, they maybe, do something more normal. So that's why, to me, that Jag ad didn't even register to me as something that was even controversial, because I'm like watching a Gucci ad, I'm watching an ad for whatever, and that's what they were trying to do, is appeal to that crowd. So they only need to sell, a few thousand cars for it to be a success. We're not talking mass market, mass appeal, Bud Light, Target kind of stuff. We're talking, are we going to make a few thousand people happy with this ad and have those people be the kind of people that can spend 150 grand or more? I think those two, when you look at those buyers and what those people like, you have a lot of overlap there. Obviously, there's still billionaires that, want to drive around in an F-150 and, have, I don't know, cowboy hats on all the time or whatever stereotypes you want to pull out. There's certainly some of that, but I think that, there's, they're appealing to those LA people, they're appealing to those, urban people and people that just, are really into high fashion, high value art, all that kind of stuff. That's the kind of people they're going after. So we'll see. It'll be very interesting. Again, another very interesting thing to follow here in 2025. We're going to be just popping the popcorn, sitting back and seeing what crashes and burns and what takes off. It'll be fascinating. Zachary says, I cut the hair of a GM of a Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram dealer who was brought in a few months ago to help turn things around. He said this month they were in the black for the first time all year. Interesting. So, I mean, I guess that's, promising, and maybe, there will be some, just, I don't know, some new stuff coming in here. I think you will have some people buy the Chargers. I think next year, especially once the gas one comes online next summer, there's going to be a lot of people that don't hate the styling. I think the styling, hopefully by this point is one of the least controversial things about it. And, you get it with that great inline six. It's going to be a beast of a motor as long as quality is good. I think that a lot of people will actually go for the gas version. EV1, again, I think it's going to be a limited market. And that's just because of, what Dodge has always been. But I think the gas one, the people who are the same people who, gave up their V8 Rams for the new Turbo 6 version. There's people that did that as well. I think there will be some people that'll give up their V8 Chargers and Challengers for the new Charger, as long as it has that, turbo motor with more power than their, V8s anyway, at least as far as the Scat Packs and the RTs. So, I really think it's still, there's some stuff there for Stellantis that has promise as well. I think they have less promising product on the horizon, honestly, than Nissan does, but there are a few things for sure. So hopefully everyone does all right and everything will be fine. We'll see. Car says broken down vehicles I saw were probably mostly around 10 to 25-year-old vehicles. I think there were minivans, some SUVs, trucks, some random sedans. Nothing stood except for a newer SUV. I'm sure of the model. Gotcha. Okay. So, yeah, good assortment there, I guess. And Danny also says he spotted a 2008 BMW 335D. Nice. Those are also very rare. That's really cool. Colby's also asking, when in December do you do the actual filming of the year-end wrap-up video? Usually just comes down to when, the circumstances are. So this year, we'll see. I may be doing a visit to a friend towards the end of the year and stuff. So it may end up being something, like the last week of December, maybe the week before. But it's always towards the end of the year there. But I need to drive Charger EV first before I say what my top vehicle of the year is. Because, Ioniq 5N was one of my favorites, and we will see. Charger EV and Ioniq 5N were the top two vehicles I was most excited to review this year. Ioniq 5N did not let me down. Now it's up to Charger to see if it can top it or not. Might crash and burn, might be terrible, or might be good, might be mediocre, might be great. We'll see. So once I can develop that opinion, I will probably be ready to make my top 10 list of the year here. But let me see. Goff says last Friday we had about 10 inches of snow in the Poconos Scranton area. Now it is all gone, melted over the week. However, very cold the last few days. Gotcha. Yeah, it's just, I'm surprised actually you didn't get more snow in the Poconos. That's surprising. And two, thanks for stopping by. It says, oh crap, two's back. Peter's gone with his whack wraps. By the way, what's the bet that the GNX is about to skyrocket? Yeah, I just saw what, I can't remember which artist it was that just did the whole album titled GNX, right? I mean, GNX is already where like poised to be a top collector and already are getting really expensive, and that probably won't help it. But glad to see the GNX getting the love it deserves. Goodstick says California recently announced that if the tax credit goes away, it will provide incentives. However, it's excluding Tesla. Yeah, I saw that. That was I don't usually laugh at headlines, but man, that one was really like they are going there. Like gloves are off in California. It was really hilarious for me personally to read that. And so, and honestly, I mean, California has a lot of influence, being a gigantic economy, just compared to even other countries in the world. I think a lot of car companies probably took a sigh of relief whenever they heard that from California, because car companies need stability. They plan 8 years out. They do not plan for every 4 years and, whatever the change of the wind is in the president's office. So, I think, everyone's constructing everything around having that tax credit, and having that pulled from them would be a really, a rug pull. So I think California kind of reassuring that, I think that really helps car companies. I think that will help the car companies to really be on California's side, potentially in some of these negotiations that happen and decisions that are made. And we will see, how it plays out. Because I think a lot of these companies already invested, again, billions of dollars for this transition. They don't want to waste that money. And I think a lot of them also actually do believe in these vehicles too. Is not just posturing. They actually believe this is, the way forward. And so, I think that's, if California and maybe the other CARB states also join in on that, backing, I think, we could see, a little bit more stability in the car industry than we were expecting, honestly, for the next 4 years. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it was a very interesting development. And Veslin, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. He says, speaking of Jaguars, imagine how the hell you will market yourself as a car brand once all this stuff goes EV. No brand identity in terms of engines, engine placement, rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, and so on. Yeah, and this is kind of what a lot of the car companies are trying to figure out is what do we do? Like there was rumors about Porsche potentially stacking the battery where a mid-engine would go for this new Boxster and Cayman that's going to be electric to give it that dynamic. And I think that's the kind of creativity I'm curious to see, is it's not just, same old, same old. It's like, we have a new problem finally. What is our engineering team going to do to, do things in a new way and actually, think outside the box, a little bit more. And so that's like, Porsche's considering, creative battery placement. And as far as others, that is, it's a lot of them are coming up with signature sounds. And also power delivery. Power delivery is different in EVs, and I think this is something we are seeing even in Ioniq 5N. Having the manual shifting and having, even in automatic mode for that vehicle, it goes through 8 predefined gears if you wanted to kind of give you that torque cut and give you those different feelings and customizing that. Honda's been prototyping having a bunch of their iconic models as engine sounds and having it as DLC you can download just like in a video game. And I think there's a lot that's actually being developed here, but I think a lot of it will also come down to styling. I think this is why Jaguar is going really bold with that style, it seems. And I think that's going to be another really big way to differentiate yourself. But I think that if you look back at history too, these days we have a very diverse amount of powertrains. But you look back at like the 1940s, even the 1950s, you had, everyone usually had a straight 6 engine. And some of them it had the V8s or 8 cylinders, even like Lincoln in the 40s had like a V12. So there was a little bit there, but for the mainstream masses, every fuel saver engine was a straight 6, and then you step up to the 8 cylinder, either inline or V8, and they all just had a V8 or an inline 6. And there wasn't a whole lot of differentiation. I mean, every engine was a little bit different, but there wasn't wild differences in power delivery. They all did about 100 horsepower or so in the late 1940s, early 50s before they started to be a little bit more differentiation. But like for, a large chunk of automotive history, there wasn't this wild variety of, having hundreds of different engine displacements and setups and tunes and this. And I mean, like, it's so much out there as far as options, just option overload, honestly. But I don't think that's a necessity. I mean, as enthusiasts, we like that and we like having all these different little things to pick up on. But for a lot of people, again, you have to remember, for the masses, this is just transportation. They don't give a crap about power delivery. They don't care about any of this stuff. If it looks cool, it does what they want it to do with their phone, and it gets them from point A to point B. I think most people are not going to care, unfortunately. Us enthusiasts will, and unfortunately we have 100 years of cool used cars to go into as well, and we'll have lots of fun new stuff as well. I think Ioniq 5N proves to me, at least, that this isn't going to be some miserable world we're going into. If we do happen to go all EV at some point in the distant future, it can still be fun. Hyundai has shown that. So but I think that this is, it's a fun thing to see how car companies do this and how are they going to define themselves for the next 100 years, and how are they going to set themselves up, for the future with these things. It's very fascinating. So I could go on a tangent about that all day long, but I see also a follow-up. He says anybody can build electric 911s except to set up the dynamics like them. Yeah, and that's, handling is also going to become more important as well, because if powertrain is largely the same, then Porsche is going to shine with their fantastic chassis development team that they have, and others that know how to make a good handling car for enthusiasts. That's going to mean more than ever, and so I think that that's another way to differentiate yourself and separate the good cars from the great cars, is just the way they make you feel and the way they handle still, despite maybe being heavier or whatever. So it's It's very fascinating to see. But thank you so much for the super chat there. And it's so fun to watch this crazy time in history of such large changes in the auto industry, something we've never seen before. And let me see. Brian says the car on your upcoming list is the Dodge Charger Daytona. Hurricane engine? No, the Daytona is the EV one. The gas one isn't going on sale until I think they said June. So I don't know, I'll probably drive it sometime around then. But the one I'll be driving here this month is the EV. I think it's going to be RT and the Scat pack, but I'm not totally sure. It might just be all the Scat packs there. But be interesting to see how that goes. Let me see, trying to get caught up here a little bit. So Jordan says Fiat should bring the Panda to the U.S. as an EV or a hybrid. I agree. I think all versions of the Panda should be brought over here. I don't know why Fiat hasn't brought all their stuff. It really is mystifying to me because they have a full-fledged lineup elsewhere in the world, and some of those larger ones would be totally fine for American buyers, I think. But yeah, Fiat, I don't know what they're doing. But another one, we'll just sit back, eat our popcorn, and see what happens. Goodstick says, when talking about affordable EVs, would bikes and scooters be the truly affordable options for vehicles as they require much smaller batteries and parts required? Absolutely. I mean, that's an option, for people that, live in cities or, smaller towns. But I think these days, Americans have been so spoiled by cars that, going to bikes, I think that's, a more viable option for other parts of the world where either things are more densely packed in or places where, people are just more open to, bikes and, different parts of the world where that is more normal. I think here in the States, I think things are gonna have to get really, really bad from an affordability standpoint. If we get to a point where like every car is super expensive, then you'll see used cars just become, more popular. I think if we're talking crazy hypotheticals here, I think that if cars get so expensive for new cars that it's only like something for the wealthy, I think before we see people go to bikes and scooters, we will just see ourselves turn into like Cuba from a car standpoint. You'll see everyone just like keeping their 30, 40-year-old cars running forever. And I mean, cars these days are so reliable that, I think that that's not going to be quite as hard to do as it might have been if we were talking, 10 or 20 or 30 years ago. So I think that would be the thing I would see. People would still want to have a car before they go to a bike or something, especially people that, travel long distances. But I think that, if car prices do continue to climb like they have been, and it becomes more of a rich person's thing, then absolutely just everyone's going to keep their old jalopy and keep it going. And you will see, parts companies, all these, auto parts stores and stuff like that. That's going to be, they're just going to be there to, keep these cars running. Really, that's going to be it, I think. But hopefully it doesn't get to that because, I think, again, car companies do seem to really want to keep the affordable stuff around. At least some of them do. And so hopefully they don't all just go for, hey, if we just do, low volume, high profit stuff, we'll make more money. I think most companies, especially the mainstream brands, know they probably can't pull that off like the luxury brands can. But we might see the luxury stuff, get more exclusive as years go on here. And Bird Dog says, following you since Super Ducks fan days. I appreciate that. He says, first time in the chat. With everyone discontinuing small vans, Transit Connect, Mercedes Metris, Ram ProMaster, etc., anything on the horizon? I thought Ford had said they're doing a new Transit Connect. I thought I heard about that at some point this year. I could be wrong. I know someone needs to fill that market. Someone's going to be selling vans. I think, GM, they're continuing on with their large ones because I think Motor One just did a funny article this week. Like, you can go on a configurator on GMC's site and build a GMC Savannah cargo van. Like, why would you even have a configurator for that? Like, is anyone staying up late at night configuring cargo vans? It's just kind of a funny idea. But anyway, so I think there are a few of them out there, but absolutely, I mean, people need vans still. So I didn't see that was all being discontinued. I could be wrong, but I think at least a new Transit Connect's coming. And I think as far as the others goes, it's opportunities for other companies if no one else wants to provide it. Maybe it could be something Nissan and others, take over a little bit more of that market share too. And CB Mitchell says EVs are not going to take over where it's -6. Gain market share, yes, but not taking over. Yeah, it's going to be a long time. It's certainly going to be a long time. And this is why the plug-in hybrid provision is very important. But, I think the thing to keep in mind, too, with EVs is that I think the statistic is something like 90% of EV drivers don't fast charge. And so yes, you lose a little bit of range, in the wintertime, but like the great thing is like I love our Mach-E in the winter because it means I don't know when Beth had her Mercedes, I had to go and pump gas in the freezing cold. I never have to be out in the cold in that car. That car stays in the garage, it gets charged in the garage. And if that's our only form of transportation, like outside of getting out of the car to go to whatever our destination is, like I never have to get out of the car in that thing. Like it is, it's nice and comfy. So I actually, I do not miss pumping gas in the wintertime, that's for sure. So that's one nice thing you get in the winter with the EVs. And let me see, Jordan, thank you so much for the super chat. He says the infotainment ad patent that you covered a few months ago is going to be applied to vehicles once autonomous driving gets the green light. Probably that would make sense. Yeah, to have. I talked about several months ago now. I think it was Ford, right, that patented an advertising idea where you have ads playing on your infotainment system. Which obviously you better be getting paid for those ads or subsidize the payment or something in the car if you're going to be plastering people with ads at some point. It's man. I mean, obviously, I make my entire living off advertisements, so I can only talk so much crap about it. But there's got to be a limit. At least let it be voluntary for people to be clicking onto a video or something versus just trying to drive your car. But we will see. And thank you again, Jordan, for the super chat there. Really appreciate it. And let me see. Where were we? So Justin says, hope the sponsorship goes through and maybe we can hook us up with some deals. I need new tires on my 23 Civic soon. Okay, well, that's good to know. I always wonder how much people like the discount codes because typically people don't like actually follow through on a lot of the ads whenever I've done ads in the past. There's not a great conversion rate is the term. So that's why actually you've seen this year, there's been very few ads. Like last year around Black Friday and stuff, I had like multiple ads for, weekly updates. Every week I had, like an ad read and stuff. And I haven't done any of that really this year. Because those companies, I guess, didn't get enough of a return on their, investment there. So, they didn't do it again. So, I'm not losing sleep over it, but yeah. So, but I'll ask the tire sponsor if there's some discount codes they can hand out as well. That'd be nice for sure. So I'll keep that in mind. Thanks for sending that idea over to me, Justin. Appreciate it. The Bear in Pants says, big fan watching for years. I appreciate that. Thanks so much for stopping by. And let me see here. I see it's Oli says, I just joined, but has anyone asked you thoughts on the Mark 6 rumors with the Turbo 4 hybrid? I hadn't heard that rumor. I'm guessing you're talking Mark 6 Supra, right? Had not heard a rumor about Turbo 4 hybrid. I know there's been rumors of GR86 getting GR Corolla motor, but hybridized for its next generation, which would be a lot of power for a GR86. So maybe that would make more sense for Supra. We'll see. I think if they can find a good way to hybridize that motor and still keep the manual, importantly, that's the very important component. If they can do all that, sounds good to me. If you can get better fuel economy out of that, that platform, then I think that'd be great. So, I haven't heard that rumor in particular, though. I'll have to check that out. Good Stick says, why is Subaru and Honda increasing prices? Is it because they want to compete in the more premium markets, or is it because they have higher profit margins? Toyota is going to sell better as a result. I don't know. I mean, I have to assume that there is some market research internally that told Subaru, we can get rid of the base WRX and be fine. And Honda increasing prices. I mean, certainly, price increases are normal. It's something that's, been really focused on in the past couple of years because of inflation and stuff. But, look back every single year. Look at the press release for every model year. There's almost always a price increase. It's just, because inflation is a natural thing. Car prices go up every year. The price of everything slowly rises. We just had a faster jump in 2022, but like everything has, always goes up slowly. So cars just are keeping pace with that. And, when you look at, I can't remember who was talking about this last week in the weekly up or in the live stream here, but like a Honda Civic, if you account for inflation, is actually cheaper now than it was in the 90s. So I think some of it is just, trying to keep up with the inflation, and that makes car prices seem inflated, but just because everything else is inflated and because the money's worth less and all that. But so I think that some of that, but the WRX dropping the base model is, to me, still crappy, because price increases are one thing, but then whenever you are giving people less choices, that's unfortunate, especially whenever we're talking about affordable, sporty stuff, because yes, there's a lot of enthusiasts that do have a bunch of money and can drop 40 grand on a WRX, no problem. But, if a lot of the enthusiast market are younger people, they're the ones that are buying the base WRXs. They're the ones that, want to get into the hobby, and they want to do it, having a new car warranty or new car financing, whatever the case is for why they're going for a new one. But like, they want to get into that new, affordable sporty car, and there's just less and less options there for that. And that's just really sad, because I think not only does that, obviously have effects as far as just the car industry in general, but it's locking young people out of fun vehicles, or just not even young people, just people that aren't making a bunch of money regardless of age, and just making enthusiast vehicles, at least new enthusiast vehicles, more of an elite thing. And it's a sad development, and obviously, again, there's always used stuff, and you can go out and hot rod anything you want. And that's the kind of been the beauty of hot rodding for the past 75 85 years, whatever it's been, for since the earliest hot rods there. But it's just, it still would be sad if that new car market gets locked out of people that don't have a ton of money. So yeah, it's really, I don't really think it's a profit margin thing. I think it is truly just trying to keep up with inflation and trying to follow the trends, and also trying to maximize their production, trying to maximize just minimize the amount of wasted cars, and just people just trying to optimize the production chain, honestly, and all that I think is a strong driving factor for a lot of that as well. And Alexander's asking 2020 IS 350 or Infiniti Q50S all drive, which is more enjoyable, a more enjoyable ride. I think that the Lexus is the better driver of the two. The Infiniti's pretty good. I do really like the Infiniti. I think the ride quality is a little less refined than the Infiniti over the Lexus. And personally, if I'm going to buy one used, I would feel better buying a used Lexus over a used Infiniti. The Infiniti could be good, long term, but the Lexus, you never have to worry. It's going to be solid, especially in IS 350. It's going to be solid. It's going to be worry free. And so, you obviously have the advantage of the turbos there with the Q50s if you're talking about the newer ones, and that's going to be a little bit more dynamic from a powertrain standpoint. But I think IS 350 with that, bulletproof V6, it's hard to beat. So I'd probably go Lexus in that regard, in that comparison. And Trent Car Guy says, this is why I have an older Dodge. In fact, still says Daimler Chrysler on some parts of the car. Nice. And let me see. Zach says monthly wrap-ups instead of weekly updates for the videos going forward. I feel like monthly would just make things even worse, and that I guess I could be a little more selective and still try and keep the video to like 30 minutes or so, but I think that it would be too stale. I think honestly these live streams are kind of the better option if we're going to do something that isn't weekly. From a car news standpoint, is this discussion we have here. I think that's kind of the way to do it. The only unfortunate thing is these just don't perform well after the stream, because there's no way to properly and sufficiently highlight everything we talk about in 2 hours in these live streams to market that to other people that are watching this as a regular video after the fact. But so that's why it's tough. That's why I think the best thing, if I'm not going to do weekly updates, is do the news stories, breaking news for the ones that I can actually get to immediately if I'm, available, and things that I think I'm, are worth talking about, that I'm passionate about, or that are controversial enough, or whatever the case is, and just doing that. Because I mean, when I've looked at the rest of the car reviewer world, or just car channels in general, no one really does what I do. And I always thought that would give me an advantage. And instead, I think it's just like, there's a reason why no one else has tried to do the same kind of thing. Because, it's probably just a bad model, to be completely honest. again, because it just gets stale after, a few days, and talking about stuff that everyone heard about on Monday, on Friday, is just not a great thing. So I think, like the only one who kind of dabbles in both a little bit is Kirk Kreifels, and with his channel, he does topical stuff. He doesn't do a roundup thing. He just, hey, there's this new news topic, let's talk about that, and that's it. And I think, that's honestly probably the smarter way to do it. I think he's doing it better, and his views show that clearly is the better thing, as he's consistently getting better views than I do. So, I think that's why it's like, if I'm going to keep doing this kind of stuff, that's probably the best way to do it. But I'm still trying to think it through, because I know so many people love the weekly updates and really like not only enjoy them, but a lot of people truly do like depend on that and like look forward to that every Friday. And that's the tough part. It's really tough. So I'm trying to find a way. I wish they just got more views. Like if they got as many views as the one this week got, I'd be fine. I would just keep doing it, no problems. But just when they're getting 6,000 views, it's just I'm not making enough money for that to be worthwhile for the 2 days of work that those videos take typically. So but I'd love to do more live streams, and I tried that as a weekly update once and didn't seem to do very well. So I think the visual component of the weekly update is very important, and the edited component. So that's really why it's got to be an actual edited video. But let me see. Danon says, I'm getting my first car and I really like the GT86 FRS BRZ. What's your opinion on the 2013 to 2016 GT86 in 2024? It's a great question. I really like them. So I think, I think in my week with video on the GR86, the 2022 GR86, that week I actually visited my friend who has a 2013 FRS, and we did like a back-to-back drive, and I got to drive and refresh my memory on the old car and then go straight into the new one again and give a really good comparison. And I'm pretty sure I think I gave a lot of thoughts in that video. It's been a couple of years now. Check out my week with the 2022 GR86. Obviously you're not interested in that generation, but I think I give some comparisons there of, things that were improved. But putting the new car aside altogether, I think I still really like the old one. Just now I'm spoiled with the new one. So things that weren't a big deal 10 years ago, now I'm like, I don't love that these days. But like, for example, the power, it is, something a little problematic. I think if, you test drive one and it feels a little slow, I'd probably go forced induction. A supercharger kit, I think, is the best way to keep it feeling naturally aspirated and keep the character of the car versus the, probably more popular turbo options out there. Supercharge it. I reviewed a supercharged BRZ, back in I think it was the Super X Fan days still for that one. But I loved it with a supercharger. So I think that would fix the power thing. But even if you're just talking stock and you want to keep it stock, it's still really fun. It's still a really good bones sports car. It's got just really great balance, so much fun. I mean, that's what I cut my teeth on for rear-wheel drive driving dynamics, was that car. It's a great first car, for someone getting into rear-wheel drive, getting into real, sports cars. And I still absolutely love them. Obviously, again, newer stuff is more fun, but if you can't afford that, I think that those are still fantastic, fun cars. They've kind of held their value a little more than I would have liked, because I think, the value proposition for a used one isn't phenomenal, because they just, at least around here, it seems like they're really holding their value to the point where I'm like, you're not that far off from a used GR86 or second gen BRZ. So I would go older if you're comfortable with that, just because you start going newer, and then it's like you're not that far off from the new one price wise. So that's the only thing I'll say is just be careful with the price creep on those used ones. But they're still really fun. They're fantastic. My friend who has his FRS, that back in the days when I had my BRZ, he kept his FRS and he still has it to this day, still loves it. The things that I know he's told me in the past that he really loves about it is just the fact that, he can just beat the snot out of that thing and it takes it, and he doesn't have to worry about it. It's, it's not pristine. It's an old car at this point. and he can just have fun without worry, which is a really liberating thing, especially if you're someone who's used to having a nice car or whatever. Like having like a beater sports car is actually like, I think, really fun. It sounds like a really fun idea. My buddy seems to have a great time with it. I know he had to replace the one oil seal that was giving him an oil leak at one point, and that's it. Otherwise, it's been totally fine. I think he had like a little bit of I think water was starting to get in one of the roof rails or something, but I think that was something that was fixed under warranty potentially. But overall, it's been mostly fine. He's, I think, over 100,000 miles on it now. Absolutely loves it. It's been great. So I still recommend them to this day. I think they're fantastic. Hopefully that helps you a little bit there. And let me see. See, Grand Admiral, thanks for stopping by. And let me see. Vishal says, do you think Honda should have gone hybrid only on the Accord? The gas models seem pointless when the Camry is hybrid on all trims, including the base. I think Honda could maybe follow Toyota. I think right now, though, it's a nice differentiator for them. It keeps the price a little bit lower, slightly. I mean, I guess I haven't looked for 2025 for Accord. Is Camry? I can't remember if Camry is cheaper than the base Accord or not. I don't think it is, but regardless, they're really close in price. I think Honda will probably drop the regular gas ones at some point, but I think Honda right now, they're just focused on having those upper trims be hybrid, like we see now with Civic as well, and I think we're going to see that slowly spread out to the rest of the lineup. So I think that's the first priority before they, I don't think they're comfortable enough going all in on hybrid like Toyota is, but I think they'll get there. So. Yeah, it's I think that they're fine the way Honda's doing it right now. They have the options, and I think having options is good, so I don't think that's a bad thing. Sorry, I missed the other super chat here from Two. Matt's Two says, Matt bragging about not pumping gas in the winter, but not talking about the basement dwellers are pedaling generator bikes, or how the basement dwellers are generating electricity there. Yeah. The basement is keeping the Mach-E powered up, so keep at it too. Thanks for the hard work there. I appreciate the super chat too. Hope you're doing well, by the way. And I also see he's been a member for 30 months now. I really appreciate that as well too. He says, Matt ignoring that last super chat just makes fun. Sorry, I was not ignoring it. I apologize. I don't know why. I literally saw the one from Jordan, and then for some reason the other one I did not see. I promise you, I would never ignore you too. Sorry about that, and sorry to keep you waiting. He says, I don't know why Toyota dropped the anime when Initial D and MF Ghost is already free advertisement. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess, Toyota just being fun having the anime series. I love it. And I think the difference is they have control with their anime series to do the things like dropping the teaser we saw in the first episode for like, here's all of our sports cars that are coming. That I guess maybe they could have worked into Initial D with a couple of phone calls or something and maybe a little bit of money. But yeah, I don't know. I love to see it though, personally. And thanks again for your patience too. Sorry for missing that. Jordan, thank you so much for a super chat as well. He says, Mexico is the modern day Silk Road. Have there been any Mexican corporate car companies? Man, that's a good question. Maybe smaller stuff. I think there have been a few Mexican like supercars that I vaguely remember in the past 10 years or so here that have come out. I don't know if they ever actually came out, if they're just vaporware or what, but there was, I know there's been at least one or two Mexican supercar companies or sports cars. Beyond that, I don't know. Someone else maybe that's a little more familiar with Mexican car culture can maybe fill me in. That's a great question. I wish I had a better answer for you, but I don't think there's definitely no large corporate companies. Which is kind of surprising and unfortunate as well. It would be interesting to see, their take on something like that, for a global audience as well. Yeah, great question. Thanks so much for the super chat there, Jordan, again. And let me see here. Where were we? Brandon says, looking at a GMC Sierra 1500, if it were your money, which trim would you prefer between the Elevation or SLT? I'd have to look at exactly which trim offers what. I just don't go on the configurator enough to know. I think I covered this a little bit in my Sierra review. I did the Denali, which obviously doesn't help you if you're looking at Elevation and SLT. with trucks, I think someone else actually asked a similar question a week or two ago. With trucks, I feel like, you get the most value per dollar with going for the least amount of options you can live with. So I think they do a really good job with the elevation trims, across the GMC lineup. There's usually a good amount of standard equipment. It just comes down to what you need and what you can live with and what you can live without. But I'd say try and, go as cheap as you can, especially with trucks, because, that's the value, is about getting a giant thing that's very capable, for as little money as possible, because, all the extra options, that's where they rack up all the profits is on that stuff. So that'd be the recommendation, I think, without looking into it a little bit more. Let me see. Kara says, I recently saw a reference to Suzuki surpassing Nissan. I think it was in total yen revenue for 24 so far. Last year, it was pretty close. Suzuki's global market share was 3.77% versus Nissan at 3.84. That's wild. Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, I mean, I guess America is such a large market that they wouldn't want to give it up. But I almost wonder if Nissan's going to pull a Mitsubishi and just pull out of the States and, linger in other markets where maybe they compete better, especially now they don't have Titan keeping them here or any other uniquely American stuff, that would have been a wasted effort. Like everything that they sell here, they can sell elsewhere in the world. So maybe that's the way it'll go. Maybe they just like cut out of some markets, but I feel like getting out of America would only hurt them more than it would help. But I don't know. I mean, it made sense for Mitsubishi, I guess, or not Mitsubishi, I mean, Suzuki. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's an interesting idea, though. I had not considered Nissan maybe just pulling out of markets, but maybe that could be something as well. Steve Eslin says in Europe, Nissan has just rebranded Renault from a long time ago. Interesting. Yeah, I know they have a pretty good partnership there. I thought Nissan had a few unique things though. Like, don't they have like Juke still over there and one or two others, something like that? I don't know. But Graham, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, just got a 24 CT4V Blackwing. Loved your videos on it. Helped me make the decision. Keep up the content. That's awesome. I really appreciate that. Congrats on getting one. That is so cool. I'm glad you're loving it, hopefully, so far. And yeah, I'm glad the videos help. That is exactly why I do the videos. So I always love hearing that feedback. That really means a lot. So thanks so much. And also, thank you for supporting the V cause there. I know it's not for everyone, and that's okay, but always happy to see them because, again, I just feel like they do not get enough love. So thanks for supporting the cause there with the CT4. And I think you're going to love it. It sounds like it's going to be really great. And yeah, we will see how that works out for Cadillac for the 4 in particular. I'm really curious. I wish they had told us something about the 4, on the, Blackwing drive I did, a couple weeks ago, but they said nothing about the 4. I didn't really try and push them on it because they usually aren't going to, talk about something that they're not at liberty to talk about anyway. But I hope that the 4 sticks around. I'm kind of thinking it won't, but I hope it does because it's still just so phenomenal. But congrats again, and thank you so much for the super chat there as well. And yeah, looking forward to hearing your ownership experiences down the road, maybe if you don't mind sharing. Let me see here. So Adinan says, yeah, thanks. There's lots available in my market that aren't totaled. Also, I don't mind taking my time with maintenance. Okay, nice. See, Truck and Car Guy also chiming in there. He says, Delica is Mitsubishi. Okay, gotcha. Thanks for the clarification there, Truck and Car Guy. Bradley says, Matt, what would make a perfect 2-car combo with one being the Mazda Protege 5 manual? Miata, right? Miata is always the answer. And I think actually if you like Mazdas and you got it covered with the practicality with the Protege 5, Miata. That's the answer. Actually, probably the easiest question of the night so far. Appreciate that, Bradley. Hopefully that's a good answer for you, but that would be my pick, I think. Good Stick says, Nissan also has a stigma issue. Their loan and lease deals are so cheap that people with bad credit scores can afford them and run them into the ground, especially with crappy CVT. Yeah, there's some of that. Mitsubishi has that too. But I think, we're seeing a lot, again, really low lease deals for, Prologue, Hyundais, Kias, all that as well. So we'll see, if that hurts them down the road or not. But yeah, I think Nissan, honestly, like stigma related stuff is more just like meme stuff, like the big Ultima Energy and all those types of things, which it like really the stereotype sadly fits most of the time. It's like I always see Ultimas being driven in a crazy manner, generally speaking. So I think there's some of those things that the owners kind of do it themselves too. Unfortunate for Nissan, but I don't know how to filter that out. It's just they make cars that appeal to people that want big Ultima energy. And so I don't know how you get around that aside from making it completely boring, I guess. I don't know. Um, but Luke says, sorry for the late check-in. Was talking to a friend about my recent home renovations. All good. Thanks for stopping by, Luke, and hope the home renovations went well. And he says, I watched Edmund's 1-year review on the Fisker Ocean the other day. It was pretty entertaining. Oh, I missed that. I'll have to check that out. Thanks for letting me know. I will have to. That does sound very entertaining. Thanks for the heads up. And he also says, I'm in McKees Rocks tonight, sketchy area, but luckily I'm in a gated truck terminal. That is, that's a good, I guess the best way to be hanging out in the rocks late at night. I'm sure there's some parts that maybe are worse than others, but when I was growing up around that area, yeah, it was not ideal. Not the most safest place for sure. And Carr says, I'm curious, with as much time as your Mustangs spent in the garage, did you ever have to use a battery maintainer or charger? I had to use one when I was always making short trips in a 2016 Forester XT. Yeah, the Bullet especially. Before the Bullet, the other Mustangs got driven frequently enough. I think I actually had a battery tender for the GTs, but the EcoBoost was being driven so much that never needed a tender. But yeah, I had a battery tender on all of them other than the EcoBoost. And yeah, it's something that's for me, even the Bullet, it was fine if it sat for even a month or two. And it's kind of and it's not that big of a pain, but I was too lazy to set it up unless I knew the car was definitely going to sit for like at least like, a month and a half or 2 months. So there's a couple of winters there with the Bullet in particular where I was like, I know this thing's not moving. I'm going to put it on the battery, maintainer here and just have the trickle charger going all through the winter. And yeah, definitely something you want to do, if you're not going to drive your car in the winter for sure. And Omar says, hey, Matt, what trims offer the retractable running board on the new 4Runner, and will they still work 10 years from now? I would hope they would. It's a Toyota, and they know that people expect long-term reliability out of them. But, time will tell for that. As far as which ones offer the retractable running board, I don't remember. It's been, at this point, almost 9 months since I did my first look on the 4Runner. I think it was only unlimited, but I could be wrong on that. I think typically that's usually the only one that's on, right? I don't know. I think that's it. Yeah. Someone could probably fact check that a little better than than I can right now, but I think that's the case. Veslin says anybody can. Okay, yeah, we talked about that about the 911 there. Sorry, I'm so behind on member questions here. Let me see. So Anthony says, be interesting if we saw a manual gearbox with an electric motor, but have some beefy gears that can give you that race car sound, but they'll just do it with speakers. Yeah, but it would be cool to have, like some aggressive gearing. You could hear the race car gears or something. That'd be fun. And yeah, I think that's actually a really good idea of like having a whiny gearbox could be a way to add engagement. And I hope that someone does a real manual gearbox in an EV someday, because I think that'd be a really fun way to differentiate as well. Let me see. Gothberg says, sad to hear about the WRX is no longer offering a base model, but I did talk to my local dealership. They admitted most step up to the premium. Many just want the extra comforts premium trim offers. Yeah, and that's what Subaru's justification was as well. Subaru said the same thing in their press release. They said, almost 50% went up to the premium. I think what they meant was that premium consists of about 50% of the market share for total WRX sales. That's the only logical way I can read that. That makes sense, from their standpoint. But yeah, and I can understand that for sure. It's just that combined with the price increases and stuff. I mean, maybe everyone buying new WRX is fine spending 40 grand or, 37, now for the premium, but I just have to think there's got to be some people that buy used ones. I actually every once in a while will look on, for used ones on Auto Trader, and I look for base ones, and there are base used ones out there. So people bought bought them new. I don't know how many, but they are out there for sure. So it's not like it's been completely unpopular or anything. So, but yeah, they got the data. I don't. So I'm guessing they're making the right decision for them. And I have to give Subaru credit. Out of all the companies that have been struggling and really having a hard time, these past few years, Subaru sales continue to grow. And despite everyone hating the styling on the internet, at least, they continue to sell. They continue to do well. And Subaru is a really strong performer. So I guess it shows that, the stupid opinions I have and that many other people, have about that are hating the styling, hating this, that, and the other. Subaru's laughing all the way to the bank. They're fine, they're good, and they're having the last laugh. So I'm guessing this elimination of the base WRX is another example of that. And so got to give credit where credit's due. And Gothog also says, hope you keep doing the weekly news. It's a Friday night, early Saturday morning tradition. Hate to see it go up for all these years. I agree. It'd be tough. But I'm kind of thinking of it these days as like a niche TV show that has a cult following that really wants it to stay around, like Firefly, or like for me, Timeless was a show that I loved. It only lasted like 2 seasons and then got like a little like mini movie thing, kind of as a farewell. It's always really hard, but it's just, if companies have to pull the plug on these things because they're not popular enough, despite, the few people that really love them, it's just, again, it's a numbers game. And unfortunately, I think the weekly updates are going to probably eventually go that way as well. Of just, it's really, those of you who love it really love it, but it just, unfortunately, that's only a few thousand people, and that's just not enough to justify it from a time standpoint most of the time. Again, we'll see. Maybe if the rest of December the weekly updates get really good views, I'll change my mind and see what happens. But it's tough. I think doing topical stuff in the moment is probably the way to do it. But anyway, Good Six says, why do you think people are not enthusiastic about cars as much anymore compared to the 1960s? I don't know. I'd have to see the numbers to see, is that actually true? Are people less enthusiastic now than they were in the 60s? I don't know. I think car culture has really grown. I think, Fast and Furious really, blew it up, especially here in this century, and made it, I think more common than it was in the 60s. I think, yeah, you had hot rodders and stuff back then, but I feel like that was more so like a teenage, thing. And yeah, you had, the older enthusiasts that still had their, Porsches and, a few other things, but we're talking insanely small numbers. Look at how many Porsches they built in the 60s versus how many Porsches they built in the last year. Like huge amount of numbers, both in the high end stuff and for the affordable stuff. And then look at all the stuff that's being modded. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think the car culture is way stronger now than it was in the 60s. So I don't know. So I think there's, I think it's actually the opposite, potentially. I could be wrong. I'd be very curious to look into that and see. But I think it's strong these days because it's, just something I think it's been so popularized, and it still is, it's just the timeless thing that speed is fun. Acceleration is fun. Sounds are fun. It's this primal thing. This is why we like fireworks, and we've liked fireworks forever. It's like, ooh, bright, and it goes bang. Wow, that's fun. It's just, this very, I don't know what the word is, just very primal kind of, itch that gets scratched with, sporty cars, I think, in a lot of ways. And so I think that's something that's why that is here to stay, whether it takes different forms or whatever is, remains to be seen. But I think, people will always want loud sounds, G-forces, and so I think that's why enthusiast stuff will stick around, forever, I think, in some form. And Dorian says weekly updates are cool. For whatever reason, they might not work. No idea. Yeah, it's been something I've been struggling with for years. And Carlos says, I've been really considering the Ioniq 5N. Love your review of the car. Should I go for it? I'd have to know more context as far as whether it would fit you personally. If I were in your shoes, with my own personal opinions, yes, absolutely. I love the Ioniq 5N, and if I had that kind of money and needed something that practical, absolutely Ioniq 5N. There's a lot of really good stuff that'd be tempting as well, but Ioniq 5N is so practical, being so boxy and just so usable, that other stuff around that price point that's really tempting for me, like an Audi RS3, is so small, so much more cramped. It just comes down to what your needs are. For me, having a big car seat in the back, Ioniq 5N makes way more sense than an RS3. As much as I love the sounds of that 5-cylinder, I'd have, just as much fun in the Ioniq 5. So all comes down to personal preference, but if if everything lines up, to fit your lifestyle, then absolutely go for it. It's a fantastic car. Absolutely. Highly recommend it. Probably going to be my favorite car of the year. We'll see what Charger EV does, but it's most likely going to be one of my favorites of the year. There's a few others that are going to be close. So I got to really look at everything I drove this year and really sit down and, figure out what my absolute favorite was, but Ioniq 5N is going to be up there. Spoiler alert. And Jeffrey says, hey, Matt, I've seen a lot of videos lately showing dealerships packed with 1, 2, and 3-year-old cars with market value adjustments with dealer installed options costing up to $4,000. Yeah, it's just, it's that typical dealers being greedy. A lot of them probably already pining for the COVID days when they were able to, charge a crap load of money for cars and had everyone, by the throat. But yeah. And we'll see what happens next year. Again, if we have factories closing down, for some of this stuff, we have layoffs happening. We could have some supply chain issue stuff come up again as an issue, especially with tariffs and stuff. We might get back into supply chain stuff, which makes every dealer start drooling uncontrollably. But I really hope car prices don't get worse next year, but I'm a little nervous about that. So yeah, I think this is why. I think we're going to see a lot of people this final month of the year, especially on the EV side, but even on the gas side, just being like, get in your car while you can before, prices potentially go up again. We'll see what happens. But yeah, any dealer trying these market adjustment things, walk the exact opposite direction and go online and hunt down a dealer that is decent. There are decent dealers out there. Find one that's being honest and not price gouging. Give them your business. It might be a little more work. It might mean you got to drive farther. It might be less convenient. And for everyone, some people, don't have that luxury, and that's understandable. But if you have the luxury to, hunt around to save some money and save some time and reward the right kind of dealers, please do. Please do not give these dealers a penny over, regular asking prices. It's ridiculous. I've never ever liked any of this price gouging, any of these markups, and they're only perpetuated because people pay them. If people didn't pay them, they wouldn't happen. So that's why you got to vote with your wallet. If you don't like markups, stay far away and tell everyone else to do the same. That's the only way to beat it. Otherwise, the second a sucker comes in and pays it, that rewards that behavior, and they keep doing it. So you got to take a firm stand, no matter how inconvenient it is. And Luke says, my first and only rear-wheel drive car was an 09 Mercedes C350. Nice. Yeah, rear-wheel drive, like I said, I loved it. We were talking about it earlier. It's absolutely fantastic. And let me see. Interesting. I just got a flight cancellation alert for one of my flights here in the next month or two here. I got a bunch of stuff booked, so sorry for the distraction. That'll be interesting to dive into here once I get off the live. But Good Stick says, with Toyota not making naturally aspirated engines anymore, the prices of these cars will go up. I will probably have to take care of my 2014 Toyota Sienna with 3.5 V6 better. Yeah, I mean, it's never hurts to take care of a car anyway. But yeah, I think with everything going up in price, all that used stuff's going to get more and more appealing. And also, yeah, naturally aspirated. There's a lot of people that I think, do want to stick to that. I think, you still have the hybrid. I think that would be the solution, I would say, if you're a Toyota fan that wants the, naturally aspirated reliability, go for the hybrids because they all use naturally aspirated motors. Yeah, I think aside from some of the hybrid max stuff, but as far as the others, Camry and all that, still naturally aspirated, no worries there. Sienna, new Sienna, same deal, still naturally aspirated. And, that hybrid tech's been proven for, 20 years. It's solid. And I don't, foresee any issues there either. But me see. Good Six says Carlos, who was the former president of Nissan, really did them dirty by stealing money from the company for his own personal expenses. Absolutely. That was the beginning of the end for Nissan, I think, and we'll see if they ever recover. And sorry, Jordan, I missed your super chat there. I apologize. He said, do the Nissan hiccups also affect Infinity? If Nissan goes, does Infinity go? Great question. Thanks for the super chat as well, Jordan. Absolutely. I think they're kind of a package deal. Maybe for a brand that wants to do a clean slate kind of redo of Infinity, maybe someone could pick it up. Like, just spitballing here, but like if Mazda wants a actual luxury brand, if Infinity's up for sale, maybe, like Mazda or somebody else who doesn't have a luxury brand and wants one can, grab that. And I guess if you have the advantage of dealer networks already and, market recognition, then that might be a little easier than, like Mazda, for example, starting their own luxury brand and starting that from the ground up. But, I don't know if they would separate them. I really think they'd probably stick together. And I think, Nissan knows that Infinity is probably the hope, to have Infinity be the big profit maker for them in the future, because the luxury stuff is where all the profit margin is at, So I don't think they'd want to, but I mean, like Nissan said this week, they said all options are on the table for everything, whether it comes to financing or deals or whatever, so we'll see how that plays out for them. It'll be very interesting. And Dorian says, no Subaru Legacy really bummed me out. That was the car I wanted to get my parents this year. You recommended it for them. Yeah, I mean, Legacy, I believe, is still in production until spring or summer of 2025. So they are doing a 2025 model year. It just won't make it to 26, but they're still building Legacies right now, and there still should be dealer stock and all that. So if you want to get your parents a Legacy, especially this year, go for it. I think the Legacy is a really nice cruiser. Not the best in its class by any means, but it's soft, it's comfy. And for people who just want, a comfy way to get from point A to point B, especially with all-wheel drive, I can't blame them. I'd rather have, especially if you need all-wheel drive, I'd rather have Camry for sure. But I like Legacy, I'd say about the same as the Ultimate all-wheel drive. And yeah, it's not sporty for the Legacy. That's my problem with it. But for regular people that don't care about that, I think Legacy is going to be totally fine. And Cara says, regarding the question about Mexican car companies, I found one. Jaguar, a small electric car company founded in 2017, is apparently the only current one. There have been some specialty companies as well. Interesting. Thank you for the info, Cars. I appreciate you looking into that. Yeah, it's cool to hear. Dorian said, I went to a PCA Porsche holiday party today. It was great on Long Island. Nice. That's awesome. Hope you had a good time. And I didn't know they did that. That's kind of fun. And Bradley said, a couple years ago or so, you said you bought a Lego car that you were planning on putting together. Did you ever complete the Lego set? What was the make and model for that one? So I always get them as gifts. So I had the Chiron back there. That was a partnership with Lego that I did back in 2019, I think it was. So I did that one, and then there is the bond. There we go. I gotta do the inverse of everything. That's the Goldfinger, DB5 there. So have that one that we put together here. I think we finished that up last year, and then this year me and my daughter just finished building the Back to the Future DeLorean there. So those are the ones I have currently. Have a few that I also love to build in the future, but those are the ones we did. And yeah, it's so fun. I was never actually really a Lego fan, and I never really had Legos as a kid for one reason or another. I don't really know how that fell through the cracks, but doing that partnership with Lego was actually the first time that I ever built one of the cars, and I was kind of hooked actually, and that's why I have those. And my daughter loves them now, and we've been getting her some sets and stuff, and so that was a good investment on Lego's part. Not only did they obviously get the exposure and the promotion they're looking for there with the ad, but they turned me and the whole family into lifelong Lego fans. So yeah, very fun. Luke says, although I'd like to consider myself an enthusiast, I tend to buy stuff like Camry, Acura, TLX, etc. for everyday use. I don't like low-profile tires, which most enthusiast cars use, and that's totally understandable for sure. I think, I'd love to see, cars go back to having thicker sidewalls and smaller wheels. I think the wheels getting bigger and bigger every year just it's cool in some cases. It's fun. It looks cool, and it has some handling advantages. But yeah, it's tough with some of these cars with the ride. Being it's just tough on engineers trying to have something that's a smooth riding vehicle on rubber bands. It's tough. So I totally can appreciate just wanting something comfy. Good Six says a lot of people see Honda as a car company, but it's a lot more than that. They make engines for all types of vehicles. They also have a scooter or bike division long before their cars in the US. Yeah. Honda does it all really. It'd be interesting to see if Honda does actually take on Nissan, but excuse me, I really don't think it's going to happen. Dorian says the TLX is enthusiast 100%. Yeah, I think it's definitely a little sportier than the average vehicle, and TLX is a lot of fun. And the thing is, with enthusiast vehicles, anything can really be an enthusiast vehicle, especially if you put a little bit of money into it for mods. You can make something fun. Even just putting sporty tires on anything is going to make it a sportier handler. And this is why, like, whether it's a car you've been handed down to you or it's a car that you're just stuck with or whatever the case is, like, you can always make it fun. You can always make it fun. That's the great thing about the aftermarket. And then one of the things I love the most about it is you can always make something fun, putting your own spin on it. And yeah, I think TLX is a great car though. Good Six says, see Honda as a car company, but in other parts of the world, yeah, they only see motorcycles. Yeah, that's true. And let me see. Dorian says, I bought a custom order, highly spec'd out Porsche 718 delivered November 2022. I bought it during 2021. Zero markup and even a few freebie services going forward worth $1,200. So it was below price. That's awesome. Good for you for getting a good dealer, getting a good deal and doing well there. That's great to see. And yeah, the same friend that has that old FRS I was talking about earlier, he also picked up, I think it was in 2022, might have been 21 actually, I don't know, or maybe it was even whatever the first year was for the GTS version of the 718 Boxster. He picked up the GTS 4.0, I should say. He got one of the first GTS 4.0s and he absolutely loves it. He just is, that's all he ever wants to drive, and I don't blame him. It seems like it's a fantastic car. So yeah, I hope you're enjoying yours too, Dorian. And Good Six says people forgot that Toyota and Honda started by making things other than cars. So by saying they'll go under it, actually, they don't make full EVs immediately is factually false. Gotcha. Yeah, this is, it's very easy, from an American standpoint to just see the stuff that we see. But, this is the thing people are saying about, like, Mitsubishi or Suzuki or all these other companies. Like, oh, yeah, they went out of business. It's like, nope, they just left the American market with, Suzuki. Like, they're fine. Mitsubishi's gigantic. All these companies are really, really big deals, far beyond what we see here in the States. And so, yeah. And so that's why I hope that, again, Nissan, we'll struggle, but we'll be fine with either some help or maybe no help, but I think hopefully, it's not going to be the end of the world. It makes for great headlines and, everyone, is drawn to the drama of that, but I really think that hopefully they'll be fine. We'll see. It'd be sad. In addition to all the jobs lost, I personally, I know a couple really nice people that work at Nissan. And you never want to see anyone lose their job. It's not a fun thing. So that's why I'm pulling for Nissan, pulling for everybody, hoping that everything goes well for everyone next year. Dorian says TLX A spec in red interior is my favorite sedan. That is a great spec that way for sure. Hayden says, Matt, I just upgraded from my Honda Accord to an Alfa Giulia Quadrifoglio. For some reason, I think the Accord is faster. Am I dumb? No, you're not dumb. I think I don't know how to justify that unless you had a 500 horsepower Accord. I'm not sure how. I'm guessing I got to chalk up to gearing, but I can't imagine even the 10-speed in the Accord. If you're talking the newer ones, there's no reason that 10-speed, with half the horsepower of the Quadrifoglio, because the ZF8 speed is also geared really well to rip pretty hard. I've never driven the Giulia Quadrifoglio, but I did the Stelvio Quadrifoglio, and it's a fantastic car. And yes, to me, it definitely feels faster than any version of the Accord that's ever been made. So that one has me stumped, Hayden. Sorry, I can't help you out there, but congrats on the Quadrifoglio. That's a fantastic upgrade, and kudos to you for also again going outside the norm and getting something that I think actually could be more valuable down the road than the usual picks in that segment. So hope it treats you well and have fun with it. And yeah, I can't figure out that one though. I hope you start feeling the speed a little bit more in the future. Maybe have it checked out. Make sure that it's actually performing at its peak. That's the only other thing I can think of is maybe it's not firing on all cylinders, either literally or just is just with the tune or something being off. I don't know. And maybe have it checked out. It should not feel that slow. It should be a lot faster. Jordan says Mitsubishi definitely needs a new Eclipse coupe or sedan, something innovative that actually causes a shadow on the ordinary. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see anything Mitsubishi, even again stuff they have in other markets. There's been slow talks of them doing like a new Pajero and all these other things, but it's not happening fast enough, and they got to do something quicker if they want to stick around here in the States or elsewhere in the world too. I think they just I don't know. I do not get it. I guess they just do not have the money from the corporate overlords at Mitsubishi to give them the funding they need to get this stuff done. I really don't know why their hands are tied so badly, but I'd love to see them do well again, but it just doesn't seem like it's ever going to happen. The technician says, "Hey Matt, love the channel. Appreciate that." He says, "I live here in PA looking for a 4-door sports car for 100 grand. I'm liking the Audi RS5. Which would you choose?" I've been just watching your channel, trying to decide. I appreciate that. Hopefully the videos have helped a little bit. RS5 is fantastic. I really do love those. I'm trying to think of other 4-door sports cars, 100 grand. I guess since you said PA, I'm assuming that, and you're looking at the Audi that you would like all-wheel drive, because otherwise I tell you to get a CT5e Blackwing. But, if you need the all-wheel drive or, you're not confident in snow tires of rear-wheel drive in the winter, I'm trying to think of what else in that segment I would go for, because honestly, like for me, if I had that money, I would just be Blackwing. But RS5 probably is going to be the runner-up. I mean, I just had the RS5 competition here, a couple months back. Really loved it. The only other thing I could say, again, I'm guessing you're talking new. If you are open to lightly used stuff, I may go for a lightly used RS7 for 100 grand if we're really, because RS5 is fantastic by all means, no shade on RS5, but RS7 is like extra luxury. Like it is like proper, like double pane glass, soft closed doors, really thick and heavy feeling. I don't know what a used RS7 is going for, lightly used, what kind of age and mileage you're looking at for 100 grand in one of those. But I would probably, current gen RS7, maybe if you're open to used. If you're not, RS5, fantastic choice, absolutely. Can totally, be up for that. I'm trying to think. Because I would not take the equivalent Mercedes or BMW over the RS5 either, I don't think. So I don't know. I think you're pretty well set there with the RS5 or the R7 or Blackwing. Those are probably going to be my top picks. If I think of anything else, I'll let you know. But that's about all I can think of. Yeah. And Steven says, "Were you ever invited to a press event close to you?" I was. So actually the Kia Forte event that I went on for the last generation when that debuted, that was in Pittsburgh, and that was great because I was able to do it on my usual back roads. I was able to go home for the night and not have to stay in a hotel and all that, so that was great. Unfortunately, the Corvette Z06 launch was also in Pittsburgh, but I did not get an invite to that one, which was really a head scratcher because I was like, "Look guys," I was like, I know it's probably a full event. And you're very selective, and I'm not the biggest YouTuber out there or anything, but I'm like, no flight, no hotel. Don't even have to feed me. Don't even feed me. Just literally like tell me where to show up. Give me the car for 2 hours, and I'm good. That's literally like the smallest investment possible. Like as far as like return on investment for a car company, off the charts. Like could not get any better. And they still weren't able to give me an invite. Thankfully, Chevy has given me more invites since then, and they did invite me on the original C8 launch. So I cannot complain. But that one was a little unfortunate because I'm like, you're literally in my backyard, guys. Like, come on, like. And then I had to wait like a year to get into a Z06, after that. But it is what it is. I'm happy I had my time with one. Phenomenal, amazing car. And anyway, as Good Six says, it's 8 p.m. Good night, everyone. Yeah, and here on the East Coast, it's 11. So I will be signing off here. Let me see last couple of questions here. So Robert says, howdy, Matt. When do you think we'll actually no longer be able to reasonably purchase a gas-powered vehicle in North America? 5 years from now or more? Oh, absolutely, way, way more. I mean, even in Europe, 2035 is the end. So, I mean, even there, you got 10 years. Here in America, it's going to be more than that. And I don't know if they're ever going to go fully phase out, but it's going to be a long time. And again, we're talking new vehicles as well. And as far as reasonably, I think there is always going to be affordable stuff, until the gas powered vehicles are no more, but it's going to be a long, long time. I mean, personally, the thing that I tell people to keep in mind is that the average age of the car on the road to America right now is like, I think like 12.7 years old. So even if, everyone was able to afford a new EV and all the new car sales were EVs, you have to then add another 12.7 years onto that for it to become the average vehicle on the road from a used standpoint. So even if, we have some radical change in government in the end of the 2020s, into the 2030s or whatever, and we push really hard for EVs, even then, say we do switch over in 2035, which I think is highly unlikely, but even if that were the case, which still does have a plug-in hybrid exception, if we do it the way California was planning, even with that, add 12 more years, almost 13 more years on to 2035 before this is truly mainstream. So yes, it's not happening anytime soon. We're talking, maybe 2050, everything is an EV, maybe. And even then, you're gonna have classic cars. So it's not even gonna be 100% coverage then. So yeah, it's a long, long ways off. No worries about anyone taking gas cars from anybody for a long time. Long, long time. And again, even with the new gas bans, you still got used stuff from 2035 and prior that, will be available and reliable and good cars to drive for another 20, 30 years, 50 years. Look at the classics on the road, take your pick. I mean, people will be driving gas cars into 2100, so, yeah, I think it's not going to be a concern for a long, long time. And this is why, again, there's been so much stuff that's been overblown in the media and crap. And it's unfortunate because it gives people the wrong idea. It's like, it's just insane to me, but yeah, definitely not a concern anytime soon. And Dorian says, make a 60 grand Evo Lancer would sell out. I'd like to think so. We will see if Subaru ever tries it again with an STI, because it'll probably be 60 grand too, the way Subaru's pricing is going these days, if we ever do see another STI. But yeah, I don't know. Truck Car Guy says, I'm not getting my hopes up on a new Evo. Me neither, unfortunately. He says, I'd let Mitsubishi borrow my Lancer for inspiration. There you go. And let me see. So Jordan says, Matt, keep the weekly updates. 2025 is going to be the year. Good night, everyone. I hope so. We will see. Just have to see how the views do. And please, by all means, share the weekly updates. Let your car friends know about them if they don't already. Try and get the view counts up. That's really the thing that needs to keep them around. It's just, if we can hit 10,000 views or so for each of those, then, it's good. But otherwise, it's just, it's hard to justify. But anyway, thank you all so much for hanging out here. And I hope you all were able to get answers to your questions here tonight. Again, feel free to reach out if you have any follow-up questions here. And yeah, thank you all so much. Hope you have a great week. Those of you who get in any kind of weather here this week, I hope you can weather the storms, and stay tuned for some great fun content here this month as well to end the year. We're going to end it strong. Got some really fun gas powered stuff. Got some other cool stuff coming as well. Lots of good stuff. So definitely stay tuned for all that. Thank you all so much for your support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.